Hello and welcome to Herein Lies the Peace of God in the Awakening Together Sanctuary. The Awakening Together Sanctuary is an assembly of equals joined in common purpose, awakening to one true self. Within an appearance of many faiths, many cultures, and many symbols, we seek to discern one truth and to rest in its embrace. The host of Herein Lies the Peace of God is Reverend Jacquelyn and Eckert, the President Minister of Awakening Together. Our co-host is your favorite anarchist preacher, Reverend Glen Ganaway, interfaith scholar. The Course in Miracles says this about discerning one truth. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God.
Sing glory, glory, hallelujah. How wonderful thy holy name. Now I can see with God's own vision, and I see peace instead of pain. Yes, I see peace instead of pain. I can see peace instead of pain. Amen.
Wee doggies.
Gotta get you the wee doggies in here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you, Jacquelyn?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. I've been I practiced my reading before the show, so I would I might stumble less because this is 9 paragraphs of be, but, if, for, not, not ifs. It's she does some grammar stuff here that so it's fun. We're gonna have a good time.
Well, I hope so. I got to tell you that Shauna called me just a moment ago and said, "Where are you?" I'm like, "Well, where am I supposed to be?" And she's like, no, she didn't do that." So I can tell you, I have not even read this section. So if any teaching gets done through this one today, it will be Holy Spirit entirely.
We share the same teacher, so how about that?
Okay, I think.
So because we can do that with the Course in Miracles because we live it, and because truth is true, and when you read it and you understand it and you live it, you can certainly hear it and be able to integrate it and be able to talk about it, because it's a life. She's going to talk about magic tonight, so another week on magic. So I'm going to
talked about that last week, didn't we?
Yes, we did. We start magic thoughts. She introduced the idea of magic thoughts. Do you remember what her definition of magic thoughts was? Definition of magic in A Course in Miracles?
Self-will is what I read. Yeah, exactly. Okay,
I know.
Good. I got that right. Yay, I got one right.
I don't get so professorial. I was just like, no, Glenn, you're not teaching this. You're not just like, so our magic thoughts, and the catching ourselves in believing that having our way is, having our way and seeing it a particular way and manipulating the world to enforce ourselves and our will, and the grasping in Buddhism is the concept here, that the grasping and the the desire to control.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah, that's really, really clear that's the signature of reliance on self-will, is that whole grasping thing. It's just such a different energy. In fact, Inner Wisdom was just talking to me about that, and said, when I can't remember the question that I asked, but that was the answer. It's not the grasping that you've been doing. Inner Wisdom told me, and I'm not sure where that paperwork is, but Inner Wisdom told me that a better question for me to ask, rather than, how's this going to turn out or something like that, is how do I join the flow today?
Yeah, I love that. We're still working with the flow, isn't it? Yeah. And for me, I'm still working with the 4 steps to decision making that we did last week. Choose to engage and see with what is eternal. You know, try to work with what is real or see what is real, and then ask yourself, what's the purpose of this thing? What's the purpose? What's the purpose? What is this for? What am I? You know, what am I participating in? You know, what relationship am I in? And then to choose a goal. Choose the goal you would have today. You know, we say that over and over and over again in Course in Miracles. And then she says, make a decision and take action. And it might be no action, but it's like do what's on purpose. You know, yeah. So I've been working with that, and it's been really enlightening, especially when we start talking when I started working on this lesson. It got later and later in the evening, and Yolanda goes, aren't you done with like doing this lesson? And I said, she's being mean. I don't want she's I mean, the Course in Miracles was like, you know, it was like really like it was the Holy Spirit. It was I was like getting, you know, it's like this, there was a lot of self-reflection, and you know, coming, you know, what they say in the, you know, what they say in the old traditions is come to Jesus moment.
Yes.
You know, it's like you have to like look yourself square in the face, the mirror of the
man in the mirror. That's
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So tell you what.
So the name of what we're reading tonight.
Tell them the chapter.
It's chapter or section 17, and the name is How Do God's Teachers Deal with Their Pupils' Thoughts of Magic? So since I haven't read this yet, I'm dying to hear what the answer to that question is.
Okay, well, let's not keep everybody else in suspense, shall we? Okay, A Course in Miracles, Manual for Teachers. I call this chapter 17. Jacquelyn calls it section 17. How do God's teachers deal with their pupils' thoughts of magic? This is a crucial question, both for the teacher and the pupil. If this issue is mishandled, the teacher has hurt himself and has also attacked the pupil. This strengthens fear and makes the magic seem quite real to both of them. How to deal with magic thus becomes a major lesson for the teacher of God to master. His first responsibility in this is not to attack it. If a magic thought arises anger in any form, God's teachers can be sure that he is strengthening his own belief in sin and has condemned himself. He can be sure as well that he has asked for depression, pain, fear, and disaster to come to him. Let him remember them, then it is not this that he would teach, because it is not this that he would learn. Therefore, there is, however, a temptation to respond to magic in a way that reinforces it. Nor is this always obvious. It can, in fact, be easily concealed beneath a wish to help. It is this double wish that makes the help of little value and must lead to undesired outcomes. Nor should it be forgotten that the outcome that results will always come to teacher and pupil. How many times has it been emphasized that you give but to yourself? But where could this be better known than in the kind of help the teacher gives to those who need his aid? Here is his gift most clearly given him. For he will give only what he has chosen for himself. And in this gift is his judgment upon the Holy Son of God. It is easiest to let error be corrected where it is most apparent, and errors can be recognized by their results. A lesson truly taught can lead to nothing but release for teacher and pupil who have shared in one intent. Attack can enter only if perception of separate goals is entered. And this must indeed have been the case if the result is anything but joy. The single aim of the teacher turns the divided goal of the people into one direction, with the call for help becoming his one appeal. This then is easily responded to with just one answer, and this answer will enter the teacher's mind unfailingly. for there it shines into his pupil's mind, making it one with his. Perhaps it will be helpful to remember that no one can be angry at a fact. It is always an interpretation that gives rise to negative emotions, regardless of their seeming justification by what appears as facts. Regardless, too, of the intensity of the anger that is aroused, it may be merely slight irritation, perhaps too mild even to be even clearly recognized. Or it may also take the form of intense rage, accompanied by thoughts of violence, fantasized or apparently acted out. It does not matter. All of these reactions are the same. They obscure the truth, and this can never be a matter of degree. Either the truth is apparent or it's not. It cannot be partially recognized. Who is unaware of truth must look upon illusions. Anger in response to perceived magic thoughts is the basic cause of fear. Consider what this reaction means, and its centrality in the world's thought system becomes apparent. A magic thought, by its mere presence, acknowledges a separation from God. It states in the clearest form possible that the mind which thinks it believes it has a separate will that can oppose the will of God and succeed. That this can hardly be fact is obvious, yet that it can be believed as fact is surely so. And herein lies the birthplace of guilt. Who usurps the place of God and takes it for himself now has a deadly enemy. And he must stand alone in his protection and make himself a shield to keep him safe from the fury that can never be abated and the vengeance that can never be satisfied. How can this unfair battle be resolved? Its ending is inevitable, for its outcome must be death. How then can one believe in one's defenses? Magic again must help. Forget the battle, accept it as a fact, and then forget it. Do not remember the impossible odds against you. Do not remember the immensity of the enemy, and do not think about your frailty in comparison. Accept your separation, but do not remember how it came about. Believe that you have won it, but do not retain the slightest memory of where your great opponent really is. Projecting your forgetting onto him, capital H, God, projecting your forgetting onto God, it seems to you he has forgotten too. But what will now be your reaction to all the magic thoughts? They can but reawaken sleeping guilt, which you have hidden but have not let go. Each one says clearly to your frightened mind, you have surpassed the place of God. Think not he has forgotten. Here we have the fear of God most starkly represented. For in that thought has guilt already raised madness to the throne of God himself. And now there is no hope except to kill. Here is salvation now. An angry father pursues his guilty son. Kill or be killed, for here alone is choice. Beyond this, there is none, for what was done cannot be undone without. The stain of blood can never be removed, and anyone who bears this stain on him must meet with death. Into this hopeless situation.
Which is an understatement. Go ahead.
Into this hopeless situation, God sends his teachers. They bring the light of hope from God himself. There is a way in which escape is possible. It can be learned and taught, but it requires patience and abundant willingness.
Yes.
Given that, the lesson's manifest simplicity stands out like an intense white light against a black horizon, for such it is. If anger comes from an interpretation and not a fact, it is never justified. Once this is even dimly grasped, the way is open. Now it is possible to take the next step. The interpretation can be changed at last. Magic thoughts need not lead to condemnation, for they do not really have the power to give rise to guilt. So they can be overlooked and thus forgotten in the truest sense. Madness but seems terrible. In truth, it has no power to make anything. Like the magic which becomes its servant, it neither attacks nor protects. To see it and to recognize its thought system is to look on nothing. Can nothing give rise to anger? Hardly so. Remember then, teacher of God, that anger recognizes a reality that is not there. Yet is the anger a certain witness that you believe it as fact. Now is escape impossible until you see you have responded to your own interpretation, which you have projected on an outside world. Let this grim sword be taken from you now. There is no death. This sword does not exist. The fear of God is causeless. But his love is cause of everything beyond all fear, and thus forever real and always true. Scene.
Bloody scene. Yeah, what an interesting reading.
I know. She got real Lord of Game of Thrones in there for a little while.
Yeah. Well, it certainly comes on the heels of what we read last week, which is not a surprise because last week we read the section before this. But it's just. You just don't meet magic with magic. And magic is we said magic is the belief in a separate will. Well, it's a belief that there could be separate wills. It's the very belief in separation. And so if you are responding to your brother with anything except all is well, all the time, you don't need fixing, I don't need to try and fix you, I just need to sit here and hold the space for you, knowing that all is well all the time. If you respond with anything else, you're merely reinforcing separation. You're believing in a separate will. What about that? Somebody believes they have a separate will? No, right? You know the truth. You stand solid in that truth as a teacher of God, and that's all there is to be done. Anything else merely reinforces the belief in separation, and for that matter, reinforces your brother, who you're supposed to be helping, reinforces your brother's belief in separation. So that's. Okay, I'm done. I'm serious. I don't see anything else in there. You tell me what else you see and we'll talk about it.
The way it's quite, I think she introduces another, she does a couple of things. She goes back, she references the very first chapter of the course of the teacher's manual when she talks about a teaching learning situation. So again, we have the choice of who we're going to call. Either we're going to call the hopeless and closed learning, the learning situation, or there's the hopeless and closed learning situation, or we're going to call the teaching learning situation, and the hopeless and closed learning situation. You say, I'm sorry, I was trying to reach the teaching learning and the hopeless and closed learning situations because I've never heard of them. You want to buy a gun? I've never heard of. We have we're got a sword on sale. That's so you get so she references back that again, this fundamental idea about how we respond to upset of confusion, or how do we deal with not knowing or being afraid, because there's things that we don't know, there's things that we haven't encountered yet. So we have a physical reaction. That's why there's this call for help. There's this idea of and who are you going to call? The call for, we did this a lesson this week in chapter 4. She calls it the call for danger, or the call for the Holy Spirit, is the way she talks about it. She says, what are you going to listen to? Where do you want to be in this situation? And in this, she goes, if your answer to help doesn't result in anything but joy, stop doing what you're doing. Yeah. It isn't like
gone wrong here,
right? Joy, like if you're helping doesn't produce isn't create the atmosphere of joy, then there's something. Then I'm imposing some kind of magic on this idea. And she introduced, in the last thing, and one of the things that the theme that runs, I love the theme that runs through this, is she talks about the mad emperor king, the mad king in your mind whose servant is magic, So this mad, the mad part of us, the madness and the what I call our ignorance and unhealed trauma a lot. Is we can say, I'm acting out of my own trauma and not in the moment. I'm trying to fix my trauma, trying to fix you so you don't trigger me. I'm trying to control so there's some kind of magic thing I can do. It's very childish and immature to think that I can say the magic words to mommy and I'll get what I need. I can do any of that. It's none of that I get from this is really truly required. What is required is to, first of all, be able to begin, like she says, to see the world as already okay, like you just said. And there's nothing fundamental to do, but there is a way I can participate in the joy in this relationship in which together we're creating a joyful experience. And I subtitled this, it goes, how to deal with anger, how to deal with your anger issues, because I've as the stories I've told, I've blocked intersections in altercations in Bay Ridge before, stopped a four-way intersection in traffic, before. Trying to right an injustice,
Well, I appreciate that she talks about the temptation to do. Thanks for not murdering people. Yes, we all appreciate that.
That was what Regina said to me the other night. Yeah.
She talks about the temptation to do something else other than just recognize that the truth is true and that there's nothing gone wrong here. And that temptation does arise. I mean, if somebody comes to me and they go, oh my God, I just found out my husband's cheating on me and blah, 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 and now I'm out of money and I won't have any place to live. I mean, the mind goes about going, okay, well, let's figure this out. Here's what we should do, right? And it's like, it's really, it's assuming that everything that I've just been told in this story is real and needs to be solved, and that's just the temptation to do that. So anyway, so it's just when you were speaking, I'm not sure what it was that triggered this for me, but it occurred to me that really the belief in magic is the belief in the order of difficulty in miracles or the problems that they solve.
I think so too. I think so too.
But the bottom line is there's nothing gone wrong here. And as I sit in that, whether I'm sitting in that for you or for me, whether you're upset or I am, right? Mm-hmm. As I sit in that is my function as a teacher of God. In fact, she says here, and I love this, she says, where could this be better shown than in the kinds of help the teacher gives to those who need his aid? Here is his gift most clearly given him, for he will give only what he has chosen for himself. And in this gift is his judgment upon the Holy Son of God. And again, so I'm either choosing to participate in all the myriad of, the 10,000 things, the 10,000 problems, or I'm resting in all is well. And listen, Andy read it to us on Sunday morning, right? About this relationships and what relationships are for. They're just the opportunity to either participate in the conflict, right? To either participate in the conflict, the separation, or the opportunity to sit in the all is well. There's only one thing going on here. Nothing needs to be changed. They're the opportunity for you to sit in that space. Whether the challenge is presented by what's coming up so for me to sit in that space, so whether the challenge is presented by what's coming up in me in reaction to something that you've done, or what's coming up in you, the answer is always the same, and it's forgiveness. It's looking beyond the appearances to the reality of what is.
And she makes very, very clear, wants us to really put for me, I hear, really put a flag in your anger. Put a flag in everything, whether it's a slight upset, whether it's an irritation, even whether it's a violent fantasy, whatever it is, it's the indication of our belief that I know better than God. I know the way it should be. It's not that way, obviously, because I know it needs to change. And I know the way it needs to be changed. I know how it's supposed to look. And it doesn't look that way. So obviously, I need to, do something about it. And that compounds it and creates guilt. And so not doing it allows me to look at where I don't trust God. Where I'm angry, it allows me to look at why I think I need to step in, and because God's slacking off,
Well, and she says, projecting you're forgetting that all is well, that you're perfect. You go, God must think that I'm not perfect. And basically, and as we know, Course in Miracles calls it guilt. Regina calls it the I am bad belief. But that's what you get. You get, I'm never getting into heaven.
I know. I call it sucks to be me.
Yeah. So we project that forgetting onto God, the universe, all that is. It's like, I have messed up now. I have messed up now. I'm a separate individual. I mean, it pulls all of that in. It gets the I am bad belief going. It gets the I am a person.
And you have to get better. You have to do something to get back into the good wills or whatever like that. You have to either go be a good person or win the battle.
Yes.
You either have got to, so there's no winning in that paradigm. There's no winning, or and winning being like the idea of the Course in Miracles says, it's true when everybody wins, when everybody is fulfilled, everybody's already fulfilled, and you can see that, and you can see and live in a world where no one and nothing is lacking. And to walk around and say you need help and you need help and you need help and you need help is so pervasive. I did 3 years in a not-for-profit, and so with dealing with homeless, drug-addicted sex workers. So it's like, you need help and you need that mindset is ubiquitous in spiritual circles, not-for-profits.
We used to joke at Endeavor Academy. They'd say, Jesus told me to tell you.
Oh yeah. Oh.
That you need to,
yeah. Yeah. Well, if I had a dime for every time somebody told me what Jesus needed me to do, from somebody, I had totally forgotten about that. Thank you.
It's so funny. What's so funny to me, as a recent occurrence, Yolanda says for her, it's so funny how this is, and you started out saying this, Glenn, this is, I don't know how many paragraphs, you said 9 paragraphs, I think. and it's fine that it is, but it need not be. I mean, you know, it's really, it seems to me that it's a really simple message. You know, you're either, and Connie and I are often talking about it in terms of, you know, column A and column B. You're either participating in column A or you're participating in column B. Okay. Column A is thoughts of separation, belief that I'm separate from you, that I got to get mine before, all of that, ego stuff, ego or Holy Spirit, you could call it. And the other column just says, well, actually what just popped in my head was that that story about Helen Schuckman, just opening that scroll to the words God is, right? That's all that it says in the other column. God is. It's as simple as that. And you know, therefore nothing needs to be different. Nothing needs to be fixed. It
doesn't, but like she asks you to look at the results of your thinking. Look at the results. You know, she says, so look at your life. Are you making good decisions? Do people know you as joy? You know, when they encounter you, she says in another the course says in another place, she goes, how do you know you're a teacher of? How do you know you're a successful teacher of God? She goes, when people think of you, they think of peace. Yeah. You know, there are people in my life who do not think of me and think of peace.
This is true for me as well. I must admit, not many. No.
Oh yeah, fewer and fewer. You know, and far between. You know, but yeah. So it's like, oh, and it's like it's a. And Yolanda and I we're talking. We've been this really idea of forgiveness of the world for the way it is. You know, letting the world be as it is as an act of, you know, forgiveness, and to let God work in mysterious ways. And so this actually was a very, very kind of upsetting and, you know, not upsetting. It was a little depressing for as I did this and I went to bed. I was actually was weeping a bit and had a long talk with, you know, with Holy Spirit. It says, you've got to help me understand this, because
yes,
this anger is something that I've been proud of, you know. I've pride in, you know, how angry I've been, you know. So I'm not a big fan of bumper stickers. But when I moved here, I moved here in a Ford F-150, big pickup, because I'm a hillbilly from Kansas City. So I had a big old pickup. Okay, you know. So I'm not a big fan of bumper stickers. I like my car to be like, you know. But I had one bumper sticker on this car. I let I had one bumper sticker on that car. You know what it was? If you're not angry, you're not paying attention.
Oh.
That's how close, you know, this dealing with anger has been, you know, for me. So
George says righteous indignation.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. My father's a Southern Baptist preacher. I grew up in the South, just out of segregation, you know. So righteous indignation is a competitive sport where I come from. You know, so I'm in bed thinking about this. It's like, you help me understand, help me move past or forgive or see. You know what I mean? Of course, and I don't know about the way how the Holy Spirit speaks to you, but I think she's really funny, and she makes me laugh a lot.
Holy Spirit thinks she's really funny, is the way I experience it.
That's probably a better description. That's probably better. So you know what she said to me? She goes, so when you go down the street and you find some dog shit on the street, do you go up and step in it? It's like, no, I don't. I said, so why you want to step in? Why do you want to step in all this other stuff? Why do you want to step in it? Why do you want to go, you know, wallow with the pigs or whatever like that? Why do you want to, you know, get all, you know, and participate in their trauma and help? What you're doing is reinforcing your trauma and reinforcing their trauma as well.
In fact, I had written in the margins from some time ago when I read who knows when I read this, in regard to the second paragraph, I'd written true empathy beside beside it. But that, of course, there's a whole section in the course on true empathy, and true empathy, you don't. And I've heard it just across the street. I've heard it. It's like if you find somebody in a hole, you don't jump down in the hole with them and then try and figure out how to help them get out.
Yeah.
Yeah. You maintain your.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was really, this was really impactful for me, that I have a war arsenal, I have manufactured shields and swords for myself, in order to combat the ravages of the world, and putting down my defenses and my need to magically change, magically enforce myself and that's why I appreciated her metaphor of the mad emperor, of the mad king, just the mad king.
Did she actually say something about the king? Oh,
well,
it does. The throne of God himself. I got it. Here we have the fear of God most starkly represented, for in that thought his guilt already raised madness to the throne of God himself. I got it. On there.
So, that idea of a mad king is to be the mad king instead of trust God. I want, so I think the mad king is more powerful or looks more appealing to me than being the son of God.
Yeah.
I want to be the mad king.
Yeah. Me too.
But it was like, oh, so that was like, just like, I know, I can feel that this is, I'm reading this, I I know this to be true. Anger is never justified. It's just, I could, it's this re-experiencing again. It's like, it's been my defense against so much stuff, it's been a survival skill, to let go of my defense against the truth, has been really this beautiful healing journey. And I think this opportunity to really go into the teacher's manual, because that's what I begin every email to my classes is, dear teachers of God. I mean it, I mean it.
Yeah.
So
what are we teaching, right?
Yeah, exactly. I only teach what I want to. I only give away what I want. What I have claimed for myself. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. I don't want any of that stuff. And I love how you put that. Again, one of the recurring things that we talk about here in Awakening Together is the code. Mm-hmm. And so the question becomes, what do I want to feed back into the collective consciousness by entertaining, by focusing on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we've got about 20 minutes left. Does anybody want to tell a story about how the about a mad emperor or the mad king? How did this land for anybody? Want to speak on this a little bit? And do you have anger issues?
No.
I know. What are you trying to say? What? There's this famous tweet that goes, "Don't tell anybody I got angry." So it's like, how to deal with anger has been a thing. See, because in my growing up, you weren't allowed to be angry. That was the one thing that wasn't allowed, because because the trauma of my my mother and my father, they were both raised by some kind of really angry people, and so just the raising your voice or anything like that, it was just like not, so how did I didn't grow up with a healthy anger thing, so I've had to learn it or unlearn it through A Course in Miracles. Anybody?
Kathy has a comment.
Kathy wants to comment.
Please.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you for your patience. Yeah, I just really want to
put that right under the microscope, that whole anger piece. Thank you, Shauna, for that segue. And really look at that, because we're going to welcome anger, like Rumi's poem, The Guest House, right? Welcome them all, even if it's a band of, sorrows or anger that comes and demolishes your home or whatever. I'm not, paraphrasing poorly. But yeah, it's sort of like the trap I fall into is the anger comes. And so the next hole in the road that I fall into, so I step into the whole anger, and then I step into the hole of judging the anger, and then I step into the hole of making an identification with that process that I just described, and then trying to back out and back out and back out. And much like you said, Jacquelyn, where whatever it is, like, that's what's here and that's what's to be welcomed. And so it's that being okay with anger that I find the most challenging part. and not stuffing it back down into, the basement and orphaning it. Welcoming any comments anybody has on that one.
Well, she says, let go, let go, let go, overlook, go, move beyond. She says that, a lot, so she just let it go, you're just let the anger go. And I'm like,
easy peasy.
Oh. So it's my belief in magic is in some areas is so strong that I don't even believe that's easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just stop it.
Just stop. Thank you, George.
Yeah. And George, come on.
Oh, Yolanda.
Well, I just wanted to say, but we need to feel our feelings, right? I mean, so you don't have to stay with it. My thing is, so let it pass through me, let me get mad and let it pass through me and let me realize the truth. And then maybe I'll go back and forth for like hours, or a whole day, futzing around with it. Oh, okay. And then remember, and so that's where, my practice comes in, whatever the lesson of the day is, and that's how I use it and all of that kind of thing. But I don't want to punish myself for having feelings, even if it's anger, So you can certainly get trapped up in it and spiral, but I think it's important to feel it and let it go. I mean, I can work up some righteous anger like the rest of us really easily, but lately I've noticed because of these teachings and because we keep going over and over and over them in different ways and using different words. Today the word is magic, and for me that really made sense because when Glenn was first reading this, I was going through something with somebody that I'm dealing with, and I caught myself drifting off into that angry conversation I should have with this person and put them in their place. And then it just popped into my head. Well, that's magic. That's the magic that we're talking about, And then I was able to go, oh, okay, well, never mind then.
Don't want any part of it then.
Yeah, so I don't want any part of it. So to me it gets easier, but I have to feel it first so that I can identify it, and then I'm like, oh, that's magic. And Kathy, thanks for that Rumi poem. That's a really favorite one of mine. And to me, that's the welcoming in. So I let whatever happens, and then I can identify it. Did that make any sense?
Yeah, it makes really good sense. It says here that there's a way in which escape is possible. It can be learned and taught, but it requires patience and abundant willingness. And you've heard Regina teach about I'm willing to be willing, or even so I'm willing for this to be different. I'm willing to have a different experience, and if you can't get there, I'm willing to be willing. And some of us have brought it down to even I'm willing to be willing, right? Just give me some relief. I'm willing, and just the recognition that that there is another way. Is the saving grace in any of those situations. What we often do, and I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. What we often do is we have a reaction, and then. Okay, what's the source of all suffering? The thought that things should be different than they are. So we have this reaction, and then we wanted like the past to be different. Like I could go back and change that. I can't go back and change that. That's what happened. Now, how do I want to respond in this moment? I mean, if I was mad for 2 weeks, that 2 weeks is over. The question is, how do I want to respond to that in this moment? So clearly you can see how in like you said, Yolanda, in a lot of these situations, it's magic. Thinking, oh, I wish I had done that different. It's magic. It would be magic if you could do it differently now that it's in the past, right? So you can only deal with what's here now. And what's here now is the thought, oh, I don't want to feed that back into the collective consciousness. Oh, I don't want to be an angry person. So run with that. Because there's nothing you can do about what's already passed anyway.
It's climbing into the dungeon and putting the Mad King up on the throne, and and there's nothing I can do. It's like, yes, there is. Change your mind about who you are.
Now, do that now. Because ego will tell you, if I beat you up enough about this, you're going to behave better in the future, and that's not how it works.
I know the belief in it that it works. The belief, and it's like the world is really interested in selling you a sword and a shield. The world is like, it's like, man, have I got this sword will work. I don't, others haven't worked, but this one.
Yeah. And the Course says, probably much more than once, choose again. And it's not talking about, go back and change the past. It's talking about right now. Choose what you want to feel, what you want to be, where you want your believing attention to be right now. Do you want it to be on how you screwed up yesterday? Mm-hmm. Or is it just, the recognition that nothing needs to be different? I mean, that's where salvation lies. That's the recognition. That is enlightenment, is recognizing that nothing needs to be different. Not even what happened yesterday. Not even when I think I screwed up yesterday.
Yeah. Nothing needs to fundamentally change, right?
At all. Nothing needs to change. Even those things that I'm ashamed of, right? Because the Course talks about taking responsibility for sight, right? So you go, oh, I realize I made that choice. But it's not talking about taking blame for sight. No. Only ego blames.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she calls the decision maker a commander. She calls it a commander, but where you're going to move, and where you're going to move your attention. The way Regina says, he goes, what are you going to pay attention to? Because what we pay attention to is we're choosing to have that. We're choosing to say, I believe that is true, is what we pay attention to.
And
that's
it's not
discipline and skills building. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's not a denial or a repression of what you're feeling. It's like you can't change what's here in this moment now, but you can choose how you're going to experience that. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna recognize that I feel like crap because I spent 20 minutes screaming at my kid. I recognize that. I recognize that's what's going on. I recognize that was my choice. But that's now. Now I have another choose again. Now I have another choice. What choice am I going to make now? Am I going to continue to choose to feel bad because I wasn't different for that 20 minutes? No, that's doubling down on ego. That's more of the same.
Yeah, she says in the workbook lessons already a couple of times, you can begin your day again anytime that you remember this lesson.
Yes, exactly.
You know, it's like,
it's a fresh start every time. It's a do-over, a million, trillion, gazillion do-overs.
Yeah, so because when the Mad King is making the decision, it's from the chapter 4, it's delay. You know, either I'll do it. You know, I'll be happy later. Or I was happy in the past and I'll never be happy again. You know, it's delay. It's like, if the solution is that I have to manipulate something in physical form, if the answer is to lift up or destroy or change around any physical thing, including, and thoughts and stuff are a part of the physical part of the, we talk about the fourth principle.
That's right.
If the solution that the Mad King is saying that this is what you need to do, I should be able to immediately say, oh, column not, that's, thanks, but that's never worked. And to recognize that it doesn't work, it's like, all I have to do is just recognize that it doesn't work. Because she goes, surely you know that the truth is never would cause you anger. Knowledge will never bring you angry, will never make you angry.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it should make me joyful. Oh, I'm an eternal child I'm eternal representation of the child of God.
That choice is always available.
We see. I know
we think we have to earn it or atone or do something. Yeah, change.
It's
something
gated. We think it's gated. We do.
That's exactly what this is talking about. This is going to make guilt come up again.
Yes, and again and again and again. Every single time we find an irritation, whether it's fantasies about murdering somebody or just being irritated.
Yeah,
it's all the same.
Yeah. Kathy, do you want? I'm sorry.
Yes, please.
And then Yolanda.
I thought this was, I thought this was so interesting, like early on when you were reading, and I was wondering if it's kind of what you're talking about now, but I was wondering if we might want to talk a little more about this. No one can be angry at a fact. It was when you were reading, and I wrote that down.
It's all interpretation. Like, you're always upset because of your own interpretation.
It's not. Oh, okay. Yeah.
And the only fact is, all is well all the time. How could you be angry at that? Regardless of what the appearance is, everything's cool. You cannot be angry about everything's cool. You just can't.
Okay, I'll take it.
Kathy, did you want to? Yeah, did you want to follow up, hon?
Yeah, I know we're getting short on time, but I was going to ask us to revisit paragraph 5 and just get a little bit more of a breakdown on that, like how the anger gets rolled into the fear, gets rolled into the guilt, and then it's the whole separation from God, and that not only do we believe that, but that we can succeed. Yikes. Yes, I just want to connect those dots a little bit more clearly, if we may visit that. Thank you.
Oh, this is the very, very, very clear. This is anger and magic. We're never mad at a fact, but our interpretation of them. The result is a negative. She calls them negative emotions. Intense anger, irritation, rage, violent fantasies, and we're creating meaning from those things. And it's the meaning that we're mad at, and we are unaware of the truth. And magic is evidence of the world's thought system at work. It means we're dealing with inside the paradigm of a material existence in which I have to manipulate form in order to get something. And that is taking over the job of God. That's taking over. She calls this the birthplace of guilt, because in your heart of hearts, in the reality, in this altar of God, this heart of God that we've been all displaced within us, we know that's not necessarily the truth. But our ego sees that knowledge as the enemy. So God has to do something because that's the way the ego operates. So if you if you hurt my feelings, then I have to do something back to you in order to make things even. We attribute to God the thought system of the ego. So that's what it all comes down to. Yeah. And the result is building the tools of war.
Yeah, and I would just point to that the last couple of sentences in the paragraph above that. I guess that's paragraph 4. Then either truth is apparent or not, or it is not. It cannot be partially recognized. Mm-hmm. Who is unaware of truth must see illusions, and that's the real point. The truth is, there's nothing gone wrong here. You're not bad. That guy over there is not bad. In fact, there's no you over here, no guy over there, right? So you're either participating in this belief that I'm a person who has to get mine before you get yours, and we have separate interests, and the whole everything's separate. And so you're either participating in that or you're not. And if you're participating in this separate thing, then you're going to project this onto this God who's not going to forgive you, and you're going to be bad forever, and you're never going to get into heaven, or whatever it is, or you're never going to get enlightened, or call it what you will, but you're not going to be able to experience all is well, all is one, nothing needs to be different than it is now if you're participating in these thoughts of anger or irritation or what else.
And that's it's to the ability that Jacquelyn's alluding to is the ability to recognize the thoughts, the whole thought system of the world. And remember, like the third law of chaos is competition is real. So it says your good can't be taken from you. This thing that we're threatened by or angry at or something like has no ability to take your happiness away. It has no ability to ruin your peace or to make your day unjoyful. It just doesn't have the ability to do it. In fact, there's no, like Jacquelyn said, and at the end of the paragraph, she goes, there's actually no sword.
Yeah, at the very end of the reading, she's like, anger recognizes a reality that is not there.
Not there.
Right? To see it and to recognize its thought system is to look on nothing, because once you get underneath it, you go, and of course that's the whole responsibility for sight chapter in the course, right? I do this but to myself, and that's the cosmic joke. If I'm angry, it's because I've decided to be angry. If I'm upset, it's because I've decided to be upset. It's not because you stole my husband.
And the trigger should be irritation and anger, and it's like oh, that should trigger. Build a new trigger. I call it putting a flag in it for my own personal thought system, to put a flag in when I get angry or when I get irritated or when I get things. Oh, I'm trying to make the thought system of the world produce what God promises. I'm believing the lie that there's anything that's going to satisfy me in kicking somebody's butt, or hurting somebody else's feelings, or having power.
Own hands, right? Yeah. If I take things into my own hands, I'm going to be happy, safe, and loved. That's what the ego says.
Yeah. That's the belief in magic. And it's prevalent. And there are 10 steps to be rich, and there are 5 steps to get a husband. And there are not, it's like, you can find this stuff everywhere, lose weight, change your hair, do this. It's like all this, get more muscles, get a better job, have more. It's like it's all so set when to recognize it. That's what I like about it. Just plant a flag in it. Plant a flag in your irritation. Plant a flag in your thing. You're believing in magic.
Shauna's going to sing us out. You believe in magic in a young girl's heart. So we are out of time. Y'all, this has been such fun. Thank you very much. Thank you for participating in the way that you do. It's really, really helpful to steer that discussion. Love you all. Thanks.
You've been listening to Herein Lies the Peace of God with Reverend Jacquelyn Eckert and Reverend Glen Ganaway. To find out more about Jacquelyn and to donate to Awakening Together Sanctuary, go to www.awakening-together.org. To find out more about Glen and to donate to the Mighty Companions Ministries, go to www.glenganaway.com. That's GLENGANAWAY.com.
I can see peace instead of pain. Amen.
We love you. Thank you for your practice.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.